just adjust this and there we go. We're going to be lying on our backs and we're going to be paying attention, especially to the gap. So we're on our back with our knees bent. You may not be able to see it very well here. So I'm going to adjust my shirt and I'm going to adjust this mat too. We're going to be paying attention to the gap between our lower back and the floor. So the space right here, there's a space here. If you're just lying down naturally, there will be a curvature in your spine naturally, and that will create a small space between your low back and the mat, whatever you're lying on the ground. And so we've done our hip tilts standing. So we're going to do some hip tilts while we're lying down in this position. So that means rocking forward, back, or down and up more likely. So down and up. So when we roll up, we tilt up, you can think of pushing slightly through your feet, pushing your heels away from you, your feet away from you. That will tuck your tailbone. And the gap should, if you're doing it correctly, should go back. So imagine that if you're trying to squish a bug and you really close that gap. And then as you untuck, you can think about pulling your heels towards your butt, and that will create that arch in your lower back and the gap between the ground and your lower back. So what we're going to be doing is first just doing these up and down movements. So there's a gap, and then we close the gap. We come down and untuck our hips. There's a gap. Tucking our hips, there's no gap. Let's just do a few of these so we are aware of that gap and when there is no gap. So imagining you're squashing a bug on the ground with your low back, pushing the ground away, pushing your feet away from you. And to sync the breath like we do, when our hips are tucked, we're exhaling. And we inhale, untuck, and there's that gap. You can put your hands there to see. But for now, let's stop at the exhale, and there should be no gap. And we're gonna sit here, and we take 3 breath cycles in through our nose, out through our mouth. When we blow out through our mouth, we should feel our lower back pressing a little bit more on the ground. Still closing that gap, squashing that bug. Let's do one more breath in through our nose, out through our mouth. All right, now you can relax. And for the next step of this, what we're gonna do is at the bottom of our exhale, when we blow in all of the air out of our lungs, we're gonna hover our feet off the ground. Really think of a hover. And so just when you are aware that your feet are off the ground, they may be even touching a little bit, but hovering your feet off the ground at the bottom of that exhale. That's gonna be the next step, and you will notice that your abs will engage, deeper ab muscles will engage. That will be responsible for you lifting your heels and raising your knees. So we're gonna do that. And also we're gonna combine a forceful exhale. So forceful exhale is like blowing through a straw or blowing out birthday candles on a birthday cake. So inhale and then exhaling forcefully. Now the bottom of that exhale, we're just hovering our feet barely off the ground. So make sure that they're not like 3 or 4 inches off the ground, just barely, just about that much off the ground. And you're gonna hold it there while you keep breathing. The forceful exhale. The gap should be closed off. Squashing the bug with the low back. Still keeping your feet off the ground, just barely. Let's do 3 more breaths. Feet off the ground. Hips are tucked. One more. All right. So if we've done that correctly, we should feel our abs working. Maybe our core is shaking, which is good because those are stabilizer muscles and they're meant to really shake. So if you have ever had a weight over your head and your arm is shaking, that means those are those smaller, tinier muscles, stabilizer muscles, working hard to balance and stabilize everything. So that is a good exercise that I've done that's helped my low back. So any muscles, any exercises that you can do for stabilizing your ab muscles are great if you have low back pain, which I have had at times. And just a quick note, Michelle, looks like I am the host because it looks like the attendees, the list of participants, it says host me. So it looks like and you looks like you're the co-host. All right, so now that we've gotten into those deeper ab muscles, we're gonna do another thing on our backs. And this is gonna be for our glutes. And you may have done this before. You may have used one of these bands before. We're not gonna use the bands, but these are always great to use. And a lot of gym equipment is hard to find. But if you put this above your knees or even right below during this exercise, this is great for waking up your butt muscles, so your glute muscles. So here, we're gonna be on our backs again, and we're just gonna be doing a bridge and a hold, and then we're gonna be doing single leg bridges. So here we're on our back, and let's have our heels not too close to our butt and not too far away. So just right in the middle, and have your feet about hip width. So you should be able to match them with your hips. So lots of times I see people with their feet really close together, like this close together. So let's have them separated so they're hip width apart. And we're still going to be aware of that gap. So we're going to close off that gap between our back and the ground. And what we're going to do first is press through our heels, and then have our knees go forward. They're going to go over our knees, pressing through the heels, driving the knees forward over our toes, pressing and pushing the knees forward. And that is going to lift our hips. We're going to hold and then slowly come back down. And then when we come back down, we're gonna reorient our hips. So tucking the hips and closing that gap. And again, pressing up, holding, and then coming back down. We're gonna do 10 of these, 10 slow and controlled. And the pace here is coming up faster and squeezing our butt at the top. Squeezing our butt at the top, holding for 3 seconds, like 3, 2, 1, and then down. Then coming up faster, coming up faster than we came down. So using more power to come up and then control on the way down. So let's do 10 of these. And when you come down, adjusting your hips again, low back's on the ground, squeezing your butt at the top. Again, if you have a band, what you want to do is really separate your knees. So great to use the band and even a weight on your waist to have extra load. All right, 2 more. All right, now from here, we're gonna keep our hips elevated. And if you need to have your hands on the ground for a little bit more stabilization or just have your elbows here, what we're gonna do is lift off. So really press into one side. Let's really press our right heel on the ground. Press that right heel as hard as you can. Press that right heel, and then we're gonna extend our left leg. Extending our left leg. So our knees, both knees should be right in line. And then we're gonna put our left foot back, press hard as you can down on your left foot, your left heel, and then extend your right leg. So it's hard to see, so I'm gonna back up the computer a little bit. Here we go. And so you put your right foot down, and we're just gonna alternate here. You can do about between 5 or 8. We're just gonna work for a few minutes here. Really pressing down on one side first, and then extending one leg and holding for about 3 long seconds. Slowly coming back, pressing through one side. So hips are staying up during this whole routine here. And if you want to match your breath, take a big belly breath as you extend one leg. Exhaling when you have them both on the ground. Inhaling, extending. So you should start to feel this in your glutes, since they're being constantly loaded, constantly under tension here because our hips are up whole time. Let's bring our hips down now. Take a couple breaths. And now we're going to extend one side. Let's extend our right leg and we're pressed through our left heel. And now we're going to bridge up on one leg and then down. Let's do 10 just with our right leg extended, pressing through that left side. And adjust your lower back like we were doing a second ago. And now we can exhale as we come up. Inhale down, exhale up. Really driving that knee forward. Think about driving the knee over those toes, those left toes. A few more on this side. All right, let's go over the other side. 10 on this side. So our right knee is now going over those toes, pressing through the right heel, left leg's extended. Inhaling as we come down. Exhaling as we come up. Should be around 6 or 7 here. All right. Take a breath or two here. And so that is good for our hips, or for our glute muscles. So we worked on these glute muscles, these core muscles and these core muscles, because your butt is part of your core. So these core muscles and these core muscles. And for now, we're going to get into a little bit more of our core muscles. We're going to do a plank. I'm sure you've all done planks before. We're going to do a little variation of this plank. And so it's going to be a forearm plank. So we're going to be on our forearms. Okay, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you some cues, because most people get into plank and they just get into their forearms and they're just up here, and maybe their hips are up here and they're just hanging out here. So I'm going to give you some more cues and things to focus on, to really engage them. So you should be able to do this for really less time and get more out of it, instead of trying to see how long you can go for a plank. People like to hold planks for like 3 minutes, but this one you should be able to do a plank in about a minute and really get a lot out of it. So for about a minute, and then get 3 minutes worth of other planks. So when we set up for our plank, we're going to make sure that our elbows are right under our shoulders and our shoulders are over our elbows. Okay, so first, that's what we're going to think about. And then we're going to tuck our toes here. And when we lift up our hips, we're going to think about tucking them. So tucking our hips, and we're going to be thinking about squeezing our butt as well. So when we press through our forearms, really press the ground. So you want to have our shoulder blades are going to be separated, instead of here in our plank and our shoulders are scrunched up. So have our shoulders away from our ears, pressing through the ground here. And when we're up here, we're also going to think about pulling our elbows towards our toes. And you can even think about pulling our toes up towards our elbows. Okay, so we're here. And we do want to have a slight curvature in our lower back. So our hips are tucked, pulling our elbows to our toes, and our toes are pulling towards our elbows. And we want to keep our rib cage down. So reducing the space between our hips and our rib cage, and also think about pulling our elbows to our toes. So if you are in that plank, you can take a break now. And so what we're going to be doing, thinking about all of those things, thinking about our hips tucked, our rib cage down, pulling our elbows, and pressing through the forearms, all of those things. We're going to ramp up the tension, which we were doing with some 90-90 positions with our hips earlier, a couple weeks ago. So we're going to think about having a volume dial, and it goes from 10, 20, 30, 40 to 100. And we're going to just slowly dial up that tension up to 100 and then down. And then we're going to take a rest. So I'll go through the numbers from 10 to 100, and then we'll slowly take a rest. So less for time and more thinking about just ramping up tension, then resting. And another key is try to breathe through your nose only. If you can just breathe through your nose, that will allow you to really relax in the pose, and you will not feel like you're going to die or you're going to, your body will think that it's okay to be in that position. Okay, so first, driving through those forearms, tucking the hips, lifting them off, elbows towards the toes, and we're gonna ramp up tension. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, really creating tension, tucking the hips, pulling the elbows down, pressing through the forearms, still at 100, and take a break. All right, so that was a lot for me. Don't know about you all, how that felt, but especially early in the morning, 7:30 in the morning, maybe the last thing you want to be doing is a plank when you first wake up. But that was enough. That was good. I definitely felt that. So we're gonna do 3 more rounds of that, pressing up and then pulling elbows, pulling the toes towards each other. Then really, if you look at this gap, let me just show you, think of that bony part of our hips and our chest and our rib cage coming together here. That's that crunch. And so that reducing that space. So you have your chest and your hips, bringing that down, bringing them closer together. So again, really just starting off in that position and then thinking about creating all that tension. So we're gonna, again, do this again from 10 to 100 with that tension. So again, lifting off, pressing through the forearms, starting at 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and everything you got. Holding for 100, everything you got. Five, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Yeah, okay. Definitely got a sweat going. And I'm gonna do that one more time. So take some breaths. And we're going to go one more time here. So press it through the forearms. And if you feel any, if you feel like a burn, you know, if it's a lot for your shoulders, then just make sure that you're pressing through your forearms and that your shoulders are over your elbows and everything is aligned. And also the cube for your elbows pulling down. I heard few people say that they have shoulder, it really, you get a shoulder burn when you're doing a plank. So that shouldn't happen too much. Maybe a little bit, but it's really your abs that are going to get more of the burn. So, all right, we're doing one more here. All right, bring it up into that good plank position. Pulling the elbows down, hips tucked, rib cage down. Going in 10 to 20 to 30 to 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Holding here. Holding, stay with it. And coming down. All right, coming down. Give a good breath here. Now we have about 15 minutes left. All right, so that was enough for our core. We can go back to that maybe on Friday and add some things to that. We can add some reaches, some one-arm reaches, and some lateral steps, really slow and controlled. So our abs, just like other muscles, they work for time under tension. So the more we have tension in those muscles, the more they will be signaled to grow and become stronger. So now we're going to be standing up finally, less on the ground. Let's take a step back here so you can see my feet. So, all right, making our way to standing. We're about there. And we're going to be doing some hip mobility here. So we're going to get in our good standing structure, standing posture. So our feet are hip width again, and our toes, bring our toes a little bit closer to each other. People will have, this is a natural stance, but for now, we're going to have our toes together like they're on railroad tracks here. And what we're going to do is go look at the angle between our feet. And so we're going to bring our heels, we're going to stay together, and one foot is going to come out. And so now we have like a 90-degree angle from, this is my left to my right. So it's a 90-degree angle. And so when that happens, the tendency is for my hips to now be here instead of here. So we're going to square our hips off to the top of our mat. So the tendency is going to be to rotate towards that open foot. So now they're going to be square to the front of a mat or the wall or anything that you can reference here. So really twisting. So if my right is open, we're going to twist our hips back to our left. And we're going to be balancing on this left foot. We're going to bring our right knee up. Bringing the right knee up. And then we're rotating that knee around. And then our foot comes around. And now we have a 90-degree angle here in the front. So this is a 90-degree angle as well. And again, our hips are going to want to turn to the left. What we're going to do is rotate our hips now back to the right here. You can probably hear my dog. Again, now that I stood up, she's more excited. So the key is to keep our hips here straight and square As we lift off again, the knee comes up as high as you can, bring that knee up and then around and then back down to that first 90-degree angle that we had. Checking in with our shoulders and our hips, making sure they're not rotating, because I can create these 90-degree angles by going like this all day. I can do that all day. The challenge is having them be square as you rotate your knee up and over. So let's do a few of these. Few of these here, starting with that 90-degree angle here. Starting with that 90-degree angle here, lifting off, rotating up, checking in with those hips and the shoulders, up and over. This is good for your hips as well as your knee. So that knee will come up, over, doing about 10 of these as well. One side. As much of a 90-degree angle as you can. So that's the goal. The goal is a 90-degree angle. If that's too much, then that's fine. The goal is to do what you can with what you have. And always checking in those hips. Your left leg here is also working to stabilize. So you may feel it in your left hip, maybe your left foot. Just a few more here. All right, so shake out that left foot. Shake out your left foot. Now we're going to do on the other side. So our left foot now out, 90 degrees. Our right foot straight forward here. Squaring off the hips and the shoulders. Lifting that knee up as high as you can. Then over. Placing that foot down nice and easy. Squaring off everything. And then back. So the knee comes up and out. Up and then towards the front. So as the knee goes left, make sure you're fighting that rotation to the left as well, and bringing everything back to the right. Knee comes up and over to the front, making sure everything stays square. All right. Again, do the best you can with the angles here. Up and over. Your knee will maybe come across your body a little bit too. You can kind of see it comes towards my midline, and then like you're stepping over a fence. Let's do about 2 or 3 more here. Good. All right. Shake that out. Now, we have about 5 minutes or so left. We're gonna do some of our neck rotations. So I can bring this up so you can see just my upper body now. Here, okay. So we're gonna have our standing posture, and we're gonna make fists with our hands, and we're gonna reach down towards the ground. Fists with our hands, like punching the ground here, punching the ground. Aware if you're lifting your chest too much. You wanna have a proud chest, but you don't wanna be arching your lower back and untucking your hips. So have a neutral position with those hips reaching down through the ground. And you want to grab, what we're going to do is think about grabbing the floor with our feet, grabbing it with our fingers, with our toes, and then spreading it apart. So grabbing the floor with our fingers, with our toes, and then separating them. Still fists with our hands, reaching down so you feel a stretch in your upper neck, your shoulders, your biceps, your forearms, and creating tension here, separating the floor apart with your feet, grabbing it with your toes, we're going to be looking straight forward, and we're going to rotate our chin over our right shoulder as far as you can. And then from here, you're going to make a big arc with your chin over to your left shoulder. And from here, our chin is going to scrape on the front part of our chest over back to the right. And another big arc, still creating tension with those arms and the legs. Now chin is over our left shoulder. Then it grazes top part of our neck over as far as you can through to the right. And then reaches over. Again, big arc with our chin. And now we're going to switch directions. So first, chin goes over the left shoulder. And then a big arc over to the right as far as you can. And then it grazes top part of our chest over back to the left. 2 more of these, slow and controlled. Really creating tension with your fists pressing down to the ground. Big neck circles. Good. All right. Last couple things. Now we're going to open our hands. Open our hands, and we're going to have our thumbs out to the side, so we're opening up our hands so our palms are facing forward. And we're going to think about lifting our left ear. Lifting our left ear to the ceiling, creating length on the left side of our neck, lifting the ear up to the ceiling. And now with that left hand, we're just going to rotate that thumb and the whole hand out, open it up, and then close it. So the palm faces behind us and then front. Rotating that thumb, still reaching that left ear to the ceiling. So as we open up our hand, we're also reaching towards the ground. Good. Keep rotating that hand, reaching that ear up to the ceiling, and now over to the left. So right ear reaches to the sky, and our right hand is opening up and closing. Or it's rotating out and then in, I should say. Also reaching down to the ground. Do about 3 or 4 more. 1, 2, 3, All right, so just final neck stretch. We should also make you feel a little bit more relaxed now and open. So your posture should be, your neck should be feeling good and mobile, releasing some tension in your neck, which is always a good thing for people that deal with life. So thank you. Great to see you all, and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, team.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Tim.